Good morning or afternoon, amazing agents from across the country. Today is Thursday, May 24th, 2018, and this is Mastermind call number 178. Chad and I were just saying we can't believe it's been that long, but we really appreciate everybody being here today. If you're new to the call, this is an open forum. We don't censor these calls. We do mute you out because, so everybody can hear, everybody who wants to participate. But if you have anything you want to share with the group, challenges, we love successes. We have a lady who's going to share some successes with us in a little while. Questions, just places you're getting stuck. There's nothing, that is too basic. So please participate in the call, and you do that by hitting *6 and then hitting 1. And I know my partner Tom is on the road today. So far, Tim is AWOL. So, Chad, anything you want to share with the group before we get to the callers?
It's probably for you. I wanted to remind everybody that our team's going to be reaching out to you guys, to our subscribers more often, including Jim and Darcy and Jordan and Natalie, our sales team. And if you're getting messages from us, please just make every effort to return that. We're trying to do a better job of understanding what it is we can do better at. And if we're trying to reach out to you, it's probably for that reason. So it's just a couple-minute phone call to check in, see how you're doing. But if you see a message from us, just, take the time and give us a call back. Take a couple minutes out of your day. The better we can understand how you guys are using our services and what you wish we had, the better job we can do at steering this in the right direction to make it what you want. So we've tried surveys in the past, and we do have one-on-one contact with a lot of our customers and a lot of you on this call, but we don't always get to speak to everybody. So if you do hear from our team, we realize everybody's busy, but just try to get back to us and let us know how you're doing.
Perfect.
From a training standpoint, Probate Mastery I'm squeezing it in at the very end of the month. It's scheduled. I sent out an email yesterday. We've got a few people pre-registered, so I took care of your registration already. But it's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, starting at 4 p.m. Eastern. And the sessions will run anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, depending on how engaged the group is, how many questions and role plays we get into. But you can always look under education and training, either in subscriber portal or on our public website, and see the full course outline and details. And there's a 3-minute video there that kind of explains what Mastery is and why you might benefit from it. But we'll start that, like I said, on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. That's all I got, Joe.
All right, perfect. And one other thing I wanted to put out to the group. For a while there, we had a tradition of kind of breaking it up a little bit. On the first Thursday of every month, we were doing an Ask the Experts call, and we had a couple really good calls with the National Association of the President of the National Association of Estate Sale Companies, and that's recorded and in the archives. And we did 3 or 4 others, and we haven't been doing that lately. We want to bring that back again, hopefully starting the first Thursday in June. And our target, if any of y'all, I don't think we've identified anyone yet, but we thought it'd be great to either have a probate attorney or probably better yet, a probate attorney that specializes in being the administrator, of the estate, like the court-appointed probate attorneys. And Chad, do we have a lead on one yet, or do you want to reach out to the group? If you have one particularly good, do you want to have them recommend one to us?
Well, I know Bill has 5 or 6 that he works with, but what Jim's talking about, guys, if you're in California, it's going to be known as a fiduciary, and most other places it's a public administrator. So if you know a professional who takes on the role of administering estates, what we'd like to do is just have an interview with them so we can learn and you guys can all learn and hear, get firsthand knowledge of that process and what would make, a real estate agent or investor attractive to them as part of their referral network. So if you have a success story, if you've worked with public administrators, You can email us a support or jump on All the Leads Mastermind Facebook group and let us know, you've got somebody that would be willing to do a call with us.
All right, excellent. Boy, we got a great early turnout. We got 6 people in the queue, so let's get to them. The first one up this week is phone number ending in 1137. You're up first.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm
Hey,
David.
Hey, David.
Just getting started into the program here and getting my list of referral partners together, and just wondering about the logistics of once a client comes on board and says, yes, I want to use your services. How are we working out the payment system? I mean, is the executor or the attorney who's paying for the services, are they paying the individual like me and then I pay out to the partner, or do I give them the information to, hey, here's the partner's information, you're going to make the check out to them? Just want to walk through the logistics of once the customer says, yes, let's go.
Sure. So the perception that you want is of a vertically integrated service. So you want it to look like everything's under one roof. But from a business standpoint, you don't have to bill it that way. So once you've met with the personal representative and built rapport, then you simply just introduce them to your partners. And what I typically do is wait until the listing appointment so they have a reason to meet with me. And we'll sit down, just for example, if I see if the house needs emptied out and we need contractors to do work behind that, and then I need a stager to come in and then the photographer. Mm-hmm. So I will set a target date as part of the listing conversation, and then I'll just back my way to that. So we're going to have it, we'll be at closing on this date, which means we'll get it under contract on this date, needs to go in MLS on this date, photography on this date. And I'll work it back in the conversation until we get, okay, so we need to get the estate sale done. Are you going to do that, or would you like us to? Okay, and this is the date. So since you want us to do it, I'm going to have John give you a call. He's going to come over, appraise the property, and set a date, confirm the date of the sale. And so you introduce them as part of the conversation. And then you say, John's on our team. He'll be reaching out to you. You can handle payment when you speak with him. And then that way, nothing's coming through your books, and you're not spending a whole lot of time for revenue someone else is making. So you want to appear like it's a one vertically integrated team, but you don't want to take on all that extra workload of scheduling and handling payments and this and that. So go to the listing appointment and then start introducing them to your team members and let that team member do their part.
Okay.
Thank you. The analogy I always make, it's less like an REO. It is like an REO in that you have a whole team of partners, to provide value to the seller. But unlike an REO where you got to manage all the money, it's a little bit more like your standard transaction where you'll have a termite company, an inspection company, a roofer, a contractor, a plumber, or a repair person. You're making the introduction, you're vetting them, and you're making sure that that they're a reputable company, and you're making the recommendation. But just like your standard transaction, you don't typically, unless something's being paid outside of closing, typically they bill the seller directly, or they certainly bill the title company. They don't bill you. So there's no reason for you to get involved that deeply to still provide that same level of service. Make sense? Right.
Yeah, it makes sense. I just want to make so I'm bringing value to the table, right? They're like, instead of them saying to me, well, heck, I could have, gone and Googled anybody, for landscaping or estate sales. Why am I going through you to do this? So it sounds like what you said is go to the listing appointment, get the information, and say, okay, well, I'm going to have Joe Smith, who is a cleanout company. They're going to contact you tomorrow and schedule this with you and then arrange for payment to them.
Sure. And remember, you're not going to need any of these people, especially if it's someone local. It's going to come into play more if it's an absentee owner, but sometimes you'll need none of them. Sometimes the seller will need one or two. Sometimes somebody will need all of them. But you're rarely going to need all of them, and you certainly don't need to force them on the people, but you want to, whether they need them or not, it makes you a turnkey solution for anything that they might need, and it really makes you look like a probate professional.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Make sense? Okay, you're very welcome. 4 more in the queue.
Real quick.
Go ahead, Chad.
Before we move on, but understand, David, I mean, the value in your team versus what you mentioned of just going to Google is these are people who you have built a relationship with, vetted, trust, and have experience with. And maybe you don't have experience with all of them yet, but they're people that you've vetted. So you can bring stories to the surface of, everybody's got a bad contractor story. There's plenty of fly-by-night estate sale companies out there because there's no license requirement. So, if someone hits you with an objection like that, you can simply say, well, yeah, sure. And I mean, everyone has Google in their pocket these days, right? But we have selectively gone around town and picked the highest level of professionalism from each of these roles to be a member of our team. And that's a big value in what we bring to you, Mr. Smith. You can see the value in that, right? And you can, and that's the truth. I mean, it's actually pretty hard to find reliable contractors. It's pretty easy to find an estate sale company that is disorganized and doesn't do a good job marketing and only gets a few people to each sale. So that's the real value in you assembling that team versus just, someone going out and Googling or picking up a phone book.
Okay.
All right, sir. That helps?
Yep. Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next up is phone number ending in 7489. You're up next.
I just made a mistake and hit the *6 number. I didn't have a question yet. Thank you, though.
Well, that's okay.
Not
it's
so
my first
quick.
time on. Just trying to
Right.
participate.
You're in the hot seat, so.
I don't know enough to ask any questions yet.
All right.
All right. Well,
people off that easy.
Yeah, good to hear your voice. Nothing we can help you with thus far.
No, not yet. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Mary. Next up is Colette Mayers, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, guys, I asked Colette to be here today, and I really appreciate you taking the time. She was going to be on last week, but she had an annoying listing appointment that came from one of her probate leads. So first question, did you get the listing?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I did. Thank you.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. One of the reasons I asked Colette to be here, we get asked all the time, what's your conversion rate? How do your agents do with these leads? And fortunately, we have, 150 of you great people show up every week. But the tendency is people like Colette, they'll sign up, they'll get going, and we don't really know one way or the other how y'all are doing unless you have a challenge that we need to help you with, or unless you come on the Mastermind call. And a lot of our agents, we understand you get busy, and it's an hour to show up on these calls every week. It's hard to fit it into your schedule. But Colette had called me I hadn't heard from her since she signed up last summer. Been with us, I guess, about 8 months now, and she called to add another county. And what really got my attention, she is in probably one of the top 3 most competitive counties in the country, Harris County, Texas. We get over 700 probates a month. And Colette started off with a fairly small number of leads. I think she started with 50, and then she increased to 100. And she just had great success. And what I love about her story, and I'll let you tell it, Colette, but it's not, we have agents that'll do 5 listings out of the box, but you've just been slow and steady. Over the last 8 months, I think you shared with me, how many deals have you done with the leads?
Well, my conversion rate is for every 5 appointments that I go on, I'll convert about 3 of them. So, the ones that I have right now, I'm wrapping up. I think this one that closes tomorrow will wrap up everything that I've done from like January up to now. So that's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's been 5 this month, or 5 for this quarter that have strictly come from probate. Yeah, strictly
5 closed.
Strictly probate. 5
so 5 closed sales per quarter.
Per quarter. That strictly come from probate.
Right. Is this become the biggest niche of your business, or is it still just just one of the spokes in your wheel?
It's still a spoke in my wheel, but I will say that it's turning into a niche. You know, I wanted it to be a niche last summer, and you know, we're also an auction company. So for me, I had to, you know, I either have to put on an auctioneer hat or I have to put on a realtor hat, and I have to divide what those two things are, because the perception that most people have when you meet with them is if you're the realtor, that's great, you can handle the property and you can handle maybe a few other things that need to be done, you know, kind of be their eyes, ears, and feet in the area if they live out of state. But if you start with an auctioneer's hat, you don't quite make it over to the realtor's side. So it was a little slow for me coming out of the gate doing probate, because they often need the estate sale or estate auction portion done first. And while you're helping with that and using a sister company that you and your husband owned, oftentimes they forget to look at you as the realtor. So I had to find a way to kind of divide those two things. So there were some things that I think I missed out on in the very beginning. And once I kind of got my footing there, I was able to, you know, find other referral partners and take ourselves out of it, unless it was just something that I really, really wanted to do because there was really a lot of money involved in it. I started doling it out to other companies, and that way, you know, it works better for us and we can focus on business liquidations and things that we really specialize in. Estates were just kind of like well, we're doing estates, why don't we add the real estate into it? Or we did it as a favor because we would know certain realtors in town and they would say, well, would you please come help me out? It wasn't a niche that we really wanted for our auction company. And it just seemed like it would be a perfect marriage if I reinstated my realtor's license and brought it back into the fold. So that's what we did. But I also had to learn how to diversify those two things. I can't be both things to everybody. So for us, it was a little slow coming out of the gate, but it's definitely started picking up momentum as of this year. I think I've been with all the leads since August of last year.
Right.
So, and I was doing pretty good calling. Yeah, I did pretty good calling on my own, but I think what really works well is the ISA. I mean, you know, that's been a godsend, because if you've got someone else doing the calls for you, then you can focus more of your time doing the follow-up after they've done the phone calls, which is, it's heavenly. Just having those first initial calls done, finding out they're finished, and then sitting down and just doing follow-up notes or follow-up phone calls just to find out if there was any additional information that they missed that you could probably help out on.
So, Colette, you've accidentally turned this, almost accidentally turned this into sounds like about a 20 deal a year, extra for you. And one thing you shared with me initially, in addition, so you had your own in-house ISA. You were sending letters out, or were you just doing the calls?
No, you guys were sending the letters out for us, but I did have someone that we used for the auction company who also was picking up. I was giving her a copy of those leads and my sign-in and allowing her just to go on to the website and then call based off of whatever the current leads were. And that was working good. I mean, honestly, that was working fine for us, but I think it's actually a better appointment with better information from the ISA that I'm getting with you guys. She was excellent at setting appointments, but there was not a lot of information to go on. She was just really good at scheduling the appointment. So you kind of walked in and had to do all the detective work yourself.
I think you shared with me, you just recently, and I think initially you said you were considering dropping it because you didn't have anybody to make the calls, and then when you found out about Brandon and his crew, I think you shared with me that you've had them make 50 calls so far, and how many appointments have they gotten you out of 50?
Well, let's see. No, I think it's actually been more than 50 because I had them calling the attorneys too. I've only gotten, I think, maybe 3 with the attorneys, but as far as just recently with the probate leads, I think I got like 6 or 8 off of one list. It was the most recent list that they called off of, and they scheduled, I think, like 8 appointments off of that one list.
Fantastic. And you were sharing with me, are you finding, do you anticipate, are you finding that same conversion? You're converting about 3 out of 5 out of them making the calls versus when your ISA was doing it? Is it about the same results or better?
Well, I'm hoping that it's better. I don't really know that we've done it enough with the ISA for me to have a conversion rate that I can really stand behind. So, but I do expect it to be just as, if not better, because there's actually a lot more information that they're gathering through the ISA calls versus what I was getting. Like I said, she was really good at just scheduling the appointment and not taking no for an answer. But when I got to the appointment, I had to do all of the detective work and the digging to figure out what their need was. And oftentimes, you know, when I pull these lists up on my email, I mean, it's actually got quite a bit of detailed information in their notes that they've asked questions, and then they've gone back and tried to fill me in on kind of the synopsis of what the situation is. And I can kind of underline, you know, key points that they need. You know, yes, the property has, you know, things that need to be done to it. Well, then I'm going to make sure that I've got my, you know, my referral partners in place when I go on there, you know, and that way I've just got everything kind of organized in my brain before I actually show up to the appointment instead of having to figure it out on my feet at the appointment.
Excellent. Chad, any questions for Colette?
No, it's thank you for sharing. I mean, it sounds like you're doing all the right things, and I'm really happy to hear that the ISA service kind of relieved you and kind of gave you more control over it and more time to, you know, focus on.
And Colette, when the ISAs are scheduling the appointments, they're scheduling a tentative time for you, and how do you find out? They email, they text you, or they call you? How do you find out they scheduled an appointment?
They're emailing me right now. It actually comes from Brandon, and then if you look at it, it says that a new probate appointment has been set. And what you do is, and they usually put it in the tagline. You know, it's, you know, you'll see what the appointment date is. I'm looking at one right in front of me. It says June 5th. So I have one that's not even scheduled until June. But, you know, basically what they've done is they'll set up the tentative time, and then in the notes, like in this one, it says, you know, she just filed for the probate here in Harris County. She hasn't gotten her letters of testamentary yet. So she doesn't want to do anything yet until she gets her letters of testamentary. Well, that's an idea. That's for me to put a star by and say, okay, well, let me call her, because she doesn't technically have to wait until she gets the letters of testamentary to meet with a realtor. She can actually meet with a realtor prior to that, and we can get a timeline and get our project management scenario kind of pulled together as to what we're going to do. And then when she receives that, that's just the indication that we can jump and start going forward from there. So that's my indication to me that the ISA did a great job. They scheduled the appointment, and I'll probably keep that appointment with her, but I can pick up the phone myself and kind of guide her through the fact that she doesn't have to wait for the letters of testamentary, that we can actually meet ahead of time and start doing some more digging and just find out, you know, what else she may need. If she's still living in the house, if she's going to need an estate sale service, if she's just downsizing, you know, what exactly her goals are going to be over the next 3 weeks.
So
well, that's great.
I'm going to interject there. And one of the most common complaints that we get about our ISA service is what you just explained in a very positive way. So I want to take a minute to underscore that. So Colette saw the value in the ISA. Like, our ISAs are trained when they see any opening, any level of motivation where they believe they can get you an appointment, they need to do that. They're not being paid by appointment. They're being paid, you know, on a salary basis. So we're not looking to set junk appointments. If we see any motivation, we set that appointment. Now, some agents who don't, you know, if it's not set for tomorrow and the listing agreement's already filled out for them, they get upset. But the idea is that have the ISA limit the time that you spend prospecting by finding the people who are ready, you know, and by ready it might be 30 days out because of, like Colette just said, maybe they have to wait on the letters. But we see that as an opportunity. So we're going to set a follow-up phone appointment because you need to be speaking to that person. So I commend you on having the right mindset and seeing the value in that. And anyone else who's considering this service, I mean, just understand, and maybe we haven't done a good enough job setting the expectation, but we're going to set an appointment anywhere we see opportunity for you in a follow-up call. And oftentimes it's like the scenario that we just talked about. So they saw an opportunity 30 days out. Why not set that appointment and get you on the phone?
Right.
Because if you sit around, if we don't do that, and someone else calls in that 30-day period, then it's someone else's listing. So
yeah,
anyway,
and I just
compliments.
I can add on to that, Chad. I think for me, and I had to become very deliberate with this. I mean, or I'm having to become very deliberate about what my actions are and the path that I follow when I follow up with these leads. But to me, they're just part of your team, but they're kind of like a receptionist. They're the director of first impressions. They're picking up the phone on your behalf. They're calling them. They're letting them know that you're a little bit different than the average, mailings by the tens that you're getting. And even on the appointment that I went on last week, on Thursday when I couldn't come onto the call, there were two other investors there. When he said that I'm in a highly competitive market, most of my listing appointments include at least one investor that's still on the property when I arrive for my appointment. Most of the time it's two. I've seen as many as 6. And it's usually investors, especially in our area after Harvey. We have a lot of investors, and you're on top of each other for appointments. They show up late or they run late from one appointment to the other appointment. So the ISA, to me, is the director of the first impression to let them know, hey, I'm a little bit different. I operate a little bit differently. I'm not going to take 30 or 40% of your market value and leave it sitting on the table because I want, an ARV and I'm, going to put a bunch of repairs into the home and flip it. I'm here to get you as much money as possible and help you through that process. And it's going to depend on how much effort and energy and money you want to put into it. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be more money than it would ever be going with an investor. Not to shame investors on that, but that's just been my experience. I mean, I've invested in real estate too, but I know that at the end of the day, if you put a little bit of elbow grease into the situation, typically you're going to get more than an investor. But there are times when I have been on a listing appointment and the person has been direct and told me they absolutely did not want to do a traditional listing. I don't know why they took the appointment with me, but for whatever reason they did, and they wanted an investor. And that's an opportunity for a real estate agent to pick up the phone and call all of the investors that you know and who you've done business with and you've met and get them over there in the next 24 hours so that you can get some type of referral with that investor so that it's not a completely wasted appointment for you. So for me, I've had to become very deliberate in my actions and really start listening to everything that they're telling me, because if I can make my full commission on the property and I can make, double the commission by handling the estate sale, that's great. If I'm just going to make the commission just on selling the property, that's great too. At the end of the day, I want to know that I've done the best thing for them and I've done the right thing, and I don't want to leave any money on the table where I lose out on anything, and I certainly don't want to take anything away from someone else. If I've got a pocket full of a dozen investors that I can call on, I want them all to have the opportunity to go over there, have that fair, competitive opportunity to get it, and then hopefully out of that scenario, I'll at least walk away from something if it's not going to be a listing and a sale. So I don't know if that helps anybody, but
for sure, that's exactly what we teach people to do. And one thing I would say, Colette, is remember you can always represent. You can still list the property and have the buyer pay your commission. So there's different ways you can do that. I mean, you could take it to your buyers and have them sign an exclusive right to represent buyer before you pitch the deal and represent the buyer, but you can still also serve the seller. If you basically say, if you're going to sell this for $50,000, that's, I charge a $2,000 flat rate commission, so we just need to make sure we get 52. The difference is working with me, like the investor, the offer is coming from an investor. The difference is you've got somebody to watch your back. We can protect you and help you through the transaction and make sure everything goes smoothly. So there's ways to
that's
put
good,
a
Chad.
positive spin
really
on
good.
that. Like, I can do what they can do, but I also have a fiduciary responsibility to you, and I'll make sure you're protected. Net, it's the same money at the closing table, but you're going to make that somebody's got your back. Because, and this is it. I mean, there's investors on this call too, and Jim and I were both licensed investors, licensees and investors. I have never bought a house at a wholesale price where the seller was interested in, where they actually even gave a damn about the retail price. Because whatever was motivating them to sell this week or as soon as title could come back was they have this, this perception that it's going to take longer and be painful to use a realtor. So they're two very distinct transactions. So when you realize you have one of those, you can step in and say, listen, yes, I'm a realtor, but let me talk to you as a realtor who has a strong cash buyers list. We work with over 100 cash buyers in this market. And the difference is not money. The difference is service and protection. So we do 100 transactions a year. You do maybe one, right? One every 5 or 10 years. So why not let us have your back and go, we'll protect you and represent you. And net, you'll end up with the same money. Can you see value in that? And that way you can keep yourself in there and make sure one of your investors gets the deal. And it's very likely that you'll be on the other end of that deal if it's a flip. Because if you're bringing the deal to the investor, just say, listen, when I bring deals, I expect to list these on the retail side. So you can create value for the seller and create value for the investor, and then create another listing for yourself in 90 days.
Yeah, you know what? And it's so easy to get caught up and forget that. I'm glad you said that, because there are moments when you're kind of there and you've got 5 things going in your mind at one time. You realize you walk in, there's, 3 or 4 investors there. So you realize this may end up being a transaction where there may be reasons why they need to have an investor versus a traditional realtor. And it's very fun when you're in that moment, you're kind of,
that sounds like a great opportunity to build your cash buyers list. So if you walk up and there's 4 investors there, it's interesting. It's like the World Series of Poker, right? When you walk up and everybody's trying to buy the same house, like everybody's trying to not show their But when I first moved here, I started going to trustee sales, foreclosure auctions. And I would walk up and just be everybody's best friend. There was no stranger to me. I walked up and introduced myself and handed them a business card or 5 and just chatted them up. And it made them nervous as hell. But I got to know every investor in town by just approaching them. And a lot of times there'll be one over in this corner on his cell phone and one in that corner. But if I were you next time you pull up to that scene, just go talk to everyone. I would be like, Colette, here's my business card.
Well, I always do. I always give them my card. I always try to get their card. And it's funny that you said trustee sales, because I have acted as a substitute trustee here in Texas on behalf of when the short sales kind of did, the plummet, where we kind of did the subprime mortgage. Some of the trustees or some of the attorneys that were acting as trustees for the lenders had asked if I would do that since I was still on the list. So I did that for a little while, and that is where a lot of my kind of crop of investor contacts came from. And it's great. I mean, like I said, I can pick up the phone and I can call a dozen of them, and somewhere, it's not a good fit for all of them all the time. Sometimes they're in town, sometimes they're out of town, sometimes they're just not interested. Sometimes they tell me right now they've just got too many, they don't even want to buy right now. They're still trying to flip, finish and flip homes that they're working on or get them rented out. And then other times there are some that, are wanting to do a subject to instead of just buying it for cash. So, it just depends on the investor. But it is funny because I have met a lot of them that way, and I always made sure that when I was a substitute trustee that I was grabbing cards at the courthouse step, because there is nothing like, Harris County when you've got, 1,300 investors sitting right there in front of you on the county courthouse steps, all for different reasons.
Yeah, you guys are in, that's one of those, I'm sure you know all the hedge fund guys too, right?
Not as many as I should.
You may actually try working some of that into your conversations and possibly even into your marketing pieces, Colette. So the fact that you have been a substitute trustee and you have relationships with most investors in town, that can, just for example, if a letter shows up in the mail and you haven't spoken to that person yet, and they have 10 letters sitting there, it could pique their interest enough, create enough curiosity that they're like, oh, well, she knows everybody in town. Maybe she knows these other guys that are mailing me. I'll call her first.
I will say,
highlighting that.
Yeah, not to interrupt you, but I will say that this one that's closing tomorrow, as a matter of fact, he called me off of one of the letters, and I think he told me, yeah, he did. David told me that he had taken the letter, he looked at the website on the bottom of the letter, which was ColetteSellsHouston.com, and he said that he actually went to the probate website, and he said, out of everybody that I got, realtors and investors, he goes, your website looked the most legitimate for probate, and that's why I picked up the phone and called you. So this was before we had even gotten an opportunity to call that list because, I wasn't using ISA yet. So this was prior to that. And I thought, well, that's a real compliment. That's a great compliment to me, and I'll take that compliment every day of the week because I've never heard that before. But I've never been told I look the most legitimate. But I'll give that as a compliment to all the leads because that's on you guys. You guys created the website for me, and if there's anybody on the call that has not done that yet, I highly recommend it. I know I just updated mine, and Jeremy and Mark and everybody, they were great. I think there's still a couple of tweaks that we need. They had just put on some testimonials, and the current testimonials that are on there came from alltheleads.com. Those are clients that came from All the Leads. And I hadn't even read the testimonials recently, so I went back and read the testimonials that were going through the website, and even I was shocked. I mean, there were some good testimonials I didn't even know I had.
You were impressed with yourself when you read those. They were so good, right?
I got to tell you, right? I gave myself a pat on the back because one of them was out of California. She was an executor, and she was out of California, and she's a mathematician. She's like an MIT graduate, and she was really holding me to a high standard, and we did almost a full renovation of the house. She wanted to sell it as is, but she actually put money into the house so that she could get, $40,000 more on the house than just selling it, for $200 and something thousand. We ended up selling it for over $300, and I think we ended up selling it for over $305. So she put some money into the house, not a lot, but she put some money into the house. And by her doing that, she looked at the numbers and she realized that if she put a little elbow grease into the house, that we were going to hit it almost at market value. And then I wanted to list it a little bit higher, and she said no. She goes, I want to have a frenzy. So we listed it a little lower. And we had a good time with all the offers that came in. So she really, and I have to tell you, I didn't think I was going to get a review like that. So I was really impressed when I got that review because she's still calling me for certain things. She hasn't gone away yet.
Well, that is great. We have a couple more people in the queue. I want to make sure we get to everybody. But if you don't mind hanging on, Colette, maybe if anybody has any questions for you, can you hang on another 20 minutes or so for the rest of the call?
Yeah, that's
you good?
Fine.
Okay,
yeah,
and I can't thank you enough. I call you Coach Colette. I'm sure you've inspired a lot of the people on the call, and I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing. And please come back on a regular basis and keep us apprised of how you're doing. We really appreciate all the great information. And I'm going to go ahead and take the other two. If you have any questions for Colette, just chime in, and I'll unmute her also. Next up in the queue is phone number ending in 6818. You're up next.
Yes, hi. This is Grant Griffiths from Chicago. Thanks
hey, Grant.
for you guys hosting this.
Sure.
Hi there. And just to quickly relay what Colette said, I am currently signed up with the ISA. I have the website, recently did the brochures, and bar none, it's the most professional, looking probate attire that I've seen. And when I approach attorneys and other executors, they're really impressed by everything. So you guys are doing a really good job on that end.
Oh, thank you. And you want to share, Grant? How are you using the material with the attorneys? Are you calling? Are you mailing? Are you getting a face-to-face appointment? How are you marketing to them?
I'm just going into the offices and trying to get appointments. I recently got the brochures, and they are obviously bigger than a business card. And when the attorney can see that, there's just more substance to that. And so they find that you're more legit. And so that kind of opens up the door that way. I have a golf outing coming up here with a county board of nothing but attorneys. So I'm excited to hand out as many brochures as possible there.
Excellent. Make sure it's big enough to get their attention, but small enough to fit in their golf cart, right? Or their golf bag.
Exactly. I was looking at getting golf balls personalized, but it starts out at like $1,000 for a few dozen. So I'm not quite there yet.
Got it.
Maybe you should just go get some of those stainless steel flasks on Amazon and fill each one up with scotch and get a decal of your business card for the flask.
Okay.
I think he's kidding. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Were
those
you
attorneys are pretty hard. But yes, hey, quick question for you guys. So I got an appointment yesterday from an ISA, and I really like the recording aspect that you can listen to the conversation because you can kind of get a sense of, you know, where the people are coming from. But this particular individual, I have not reached out to them yet, so I just kind of wanted to get your guys' thoughts. So they initially said that they were going to let the house just go to foreclosure because they don't believe it's worth anything. Now, me with my realtor and investor hat on, I obviously want to know, you know, the comps in the area, but if there's a mortgage on the property, how much they owe, and, you know, why they are looking to go the foreclosure route, if that was, you know, what their attorney suggested or, you know, whatnot. And as far as not only that, but then how that would affect them and the title issues, if they immediately on title once the executor is deceased, or how does that work? I mean, how could that affect them in the long run if they go the foreclosure route as opposed to entertaining, you know, a cash sale or a short sale or anything above like that?
Yeah. So it's kind of difficult because there's no real liability for the heirs. If they just aren't engaged and don't want to sell or mess with it, it's sometimes difficult. To answer your question, title is still in the name of the deceased because the probate hasn't closed and title transferred somewhere else. So because you're still in the probate process, it's going to show as, you know, John Doe, even though John Doe is deceased. So some of the things that obviously you need to know the payoff, and if you know the payoff, then you can determine the equity. Oftentimes, so less than 30%. Well, no, let's see, 33% of properties that go through probate have some level of encumbrance. It's typically a light home equity line, maybe some medical bills, or reverse mortgage. Those are the most typical. So oftentimes when people pass away, they own their home free and clear. Maybe they've done a home HELOC and renovated it. So it's likely there's a lot of equity there, and they may just be so stressed out that they see that as an easy way out. So the first step would be figure out what the payoff is and what type of debt it is. And then, you know, you can determine the equity. And if you can show them the money they're leaving on the table, that's usually the best way to motivate them by saying, listen, guys, I really believe we can get, you know, $50,000 above and beyond the liens on this. You know, are you really wanting to walk away from $50,000, or do you just not want to deal with the stress? Well, perfect, because the stressful part is what I do best. That's what we do every day. So if we could handle all of that for you, would you want to meet and find out how I can put $50,000 in the estate bank account? Great. How's Friday at 3? So you have to show them the benefit, because they already know there's no risk. Like if they let it go, then it clears the liens. The next buyer has clear title, and it doesn't hurt their credit whatsoever. But if you can find some other benefit to them, and sometimes people will do it just based on, their values. So I had one time that they said, listen, Dad put this reverse mortgage on the house, and he made that commitment, so we got to live up to it. That's what he taught us, our whole life. That's what we heard. So we got to do this. And it ended up going the short sale route because there wasn't any equity. But they weren't willing to let it go to foreclosure because of the values that the deceased had instilled in them. So sometimes it's their personal values will drive that. Sometimes they just don't give a damn. But if you can find some benefit to them, that's usually the best way to get them to engage, so you can proceed with
Chad,
it.
I was gonna say this. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. My wife owns a short sale company. She's done over 2,000 of them. She negotiates short sales for agents around the country. And I've been surprised how many times she's probably done a couple dozen of them where there was really no incentive for the seller other than the fact that they didn't want to see mom and dad's house get foreclosed. Like Chad said, they just want to do the right thing. And the good news is if it is upside down, and a short sale is so easy to do with the deceased person because they don't have any financials. It's usually just one document the seller has to sign as the executor, and they're done. They don't have to provide financials. They don't have to jump through a lot of hoops. You know, they have to sign the initial authorization, and then they got to sign the deed at the closing. So sometimes you may be able to get them some relocation money. That's kind of a stretch. We have seen that happen, you know, where even the heir got relocation money. I'm not sure for what, but you can't promise them that. But Chad is right. I mean, probably 75% of them, if there's no incentive, they're going to let it go. But we've been surprised how often they are willing to do the right thing and do the short sale, even though there's nothing in it for them. So it doesn't hurt to ask.
Gotcha. So that's really the only benefit to them is like a pride issue going the short sale route and having the debt, you know, cleared up as opposed to, you know, having the bank eat all of it.
For the most part, I think so. Chad, are there situations where are there ever situations where if the estate has a lot of other assets, the creditors, I don't think the creditors can go after the estate for a mortgage that gets foreclosed, can they? Do you happen to know that?
No, I mean, the lender has the first, and they're going to sell it for less than that, so there's not going to be any money left over. Now, if there was a case where there were a ton of equity and it foreclosed and the lender took their part and the rest was given to the estate, then the general creditors would have a claim for that money. But that's pretty rare.
It's a long shot. If there's a lot of other assets, it's possible, remotely possible, that they could go after other assets for the estate. But I've never seen it happen. So you probably don't want to go there. But you know, it's theoretically possible. Practically, I don't think it happens. So
yeah,
you know,
they did say there was some debt on just in general. So I don't know if that's you know, medical or, you know, credit cards or whatnot. So I mean, if they're up down with you know, that debt plus the house, I mean, there's really nothing for them to gain besides the pride thing if they go the short sale route. Otherwise, they'll let it go.
You know, it's funny. We did have a couple of them where one of the kids or grandkids wanted to buy the house, and my wife, we ended up doing a short sale, got them a good deal on the house. So maybe they can do it as a if they have a member of the family that would like the house at a discounted rate. You know, that might be an incentive for you to do the short sale and try to get, you know, grandson to get the house at a discount. So I mean, there's a lot of. I would just ask a lot of good questions and see what their overall situation is, and you know, most of the time you're probably going to let it go, but there are quite a few circumstances where you might be able to save it.
Yeah, okay. That's a good point, Grant. So I mean, kind of the common thread in everything we teach is focus on the people in the situation, and they'll draw you a roadmap for your service. Like once you understand what's driving their behavior, you'll know exactly how you can help them and what you can do to bring value to them. So just ask questions until you can't think of any more, and you'll probably have enough information. You'll know what to do.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. We have 4 more in the queue. Next up is phone number ending in 2818. You're up next.
Hey guys, it's Anthony from Denver. How are you?
Hey Anthony, great. How you doing?
Good, man. First I got to say is you guys, your systems and everything, I'm watching them slowly for me start taking off a little bit, you know, and working. You know, I have a lot of doubt sometimes with systems just because, you know, I've been doing this for almost 2 decades, seen a lot of stuff, and I've seen a lot of stuff not work, you know, so you kind of get a little shy. But I just wanted to pay you guys some compliments because your letters, I mean, I've gotten 3 phone calls just off the letters. And one was the fact is, how'd you get my address? No big deal, but you know, I started talking to her, flipped it a little bit, and warmed her up, and we're staying in contact. Another one called me up just yesterday and says, I need to get rid of my house now. And I'm like, all right, great. And you know, started asking him some questions because you know he seemed real urgent and everything, and he says, you got over 100 cash buyers, and I figured let's just get rid of it. And, you know, I got a stack of letters from all these agents here, and, you know, and I was just kind of amazed. I want to poke a little bit more when I meet with them. and find out what it was about the letter that stood out compared to all the other ones that he has stacked on his table. Anyways, a little disheartening when I heard there was a stack, but at the same time I was like, wow, this is awesome because he chose my letter. So thank you guys for the letters. Obviously they do work. And then, I'm meeting with him this Sunday, and we're going to see the situation. And, things kind of line up, and I'm watching everything line up with you guys, and you got to see the signs that happen. And, right after I started and everything a couple weeks ago, there was a class that I signed up for that my company was putting on with another company and everything, and I had to network and meet a lot of different investors, and came across a couple that have the list of 100 people. So when I go on this appointment, if this house is not something I can list, I've already been in touch with them, letting them know I'll get a hold of them as soon as I find out, and I get paid on that end for a finder's fee, or, of course,
right.
listening to your calls, though, you can see so many different ways you can take it, and, I like from the other calls I heard earlier, I think it was Colette, and, protecting them, it's like, okay, well, you want to get rid of it now and you don't want a traditional listing, hey, we can throw a flat fee on top of whatever you have to get and then sign a listing agreement for that way and have, then get a hold of the investors, have them come in and say, this is what we got to get and see what we can do to make it happen. And maybe even get a bidding war amongst those investors and get the client a little bit more. But I thank you guys so much for these calls, too, because it's really, really helped me overcome a lot of objections and made me helped me to start moving forward a lot more. Because I'll admit it, man, I was sitting back, and, nothing's going to work if you sit back. But your guys' phone calls and the recordings, I've been going through the recordings and listening to calls from last year. Yep. And every time I go on any recording, I get something new, that a big aha. And, okay, great, we can add it to this, and it's just really exciting. And I thank you guys, because I know, and you probably know, I signed up last summer, and got off real quick because I didn't understand how everything worked, and my budget wasn't going to allow for it at the moment. And you guys thankfully took me back a couple months ago. And I committed. I says, hey, these guys give me another chance. Let's put some time in and see what happens. And I'm putting the time in, watching some results, and excited because I keep learning so much from these calls on what else I can implement. Another thing I want to say from call earlier, I got on like about 10 minutes late, and you guys are talking about vetting vendors or people that for your network and everything. I was late to the phone call because I was out going to meet. One was a lawn care specialist type company that does everything from snow removal to blowing out sprinklers to, everything on the outside, and was wanting to network with them. And another one was an estate company. Well, going to those places to drop in and meet them and give them my card and see what we could do for direct contacts and everything on this, neither place existed. In other words, there's a company there, but like the addresses that are on their websites and all that, those are actual addresses, but they're no longer there. And I was just like, okay, wow, but that's okay, because I want reputable companies, I want reputable people, and I have opportunities to do some networking here in the next couple of weeks with some attorneys, and I'm really trying to build that network up because, you never know how attorneys are, man. I mean, they may sit there and start questioning you, to see what's going on.
You're saying companies are much more likely to do a good job if they actually exist, huh?
Yeah, well, that would be helpful, I would think, and
that's probably a criteria that we should probably put on there. That's great, man. That is awesome.
But
thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing. And one thing I just wanted to mention, you're also in a very competitive market, and one thing we see that is really peculiar to Colorado is our Colorado agents do phenomenally well with the older leads. So don't kill those older leads. Every once in a while, go back. I'd even go back and call the ones that we gave you last summer. I bet you there's a few deals in there. For some reason, they percolate in Colorado more than other areas.
And I find that true of all different types of leads. You know, I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, and I've got you guys. I mean, I've gone through the scripts. I've sat there and recorded voicemail scripts for voice message scripts and stuff, and got it set up in my Mojo dialer and hammering them out and just connecting. And the other thing is, older people. Some reason they like me, and I think it's because I'm a talker and I'll listen as well, and we have good conversation. But that's where I'm connecting with some people, and no appointments yet, but there's follow up, and they've got older siblings that are getting ready to pass and stuff like that. So but great system, guys. I mean, I had my my worries, some doubts, everything in first, but man, I just seen a lot of things happening, and so many different opportunities to where I could see this as my only niche, and because of all the different ways you can be successful at it, it would be a full-time niche, and step away from more traditional ways of going out and getting listings.
Well, I can't thank you enough. We had 3 more in the queue. I want to get to everybody, but anybody who's listening for the first time, I promise these aren't paid commercials. We do appreciate you guys coming forward and sharing. So thank you so much, and please keep coming back and sharing your successes. We love it. Thank you.
Be back next week.
All right, take care. Next up is phone number ending in 5850. You're up next.
Hi there, this is Sue. And,
hi, Sue.
Hey. Earlier, Colette mentioned, and I think Chad had heard it on a call before, about other charges that we in the business can do besides real estate for services. How do you determine those? Does that make sense?
So it's one of those things. For me, it was just added value. I've never charged for any other service. The vendors that I use obviously charge for their service. So what? I guess I'll ask you to clarify your question. So, are you saying how the services are charged to the PR?
Okay. So I guess it's if you are handling the estate for someone, then you would do additional charges. I think that's what.
Because I don't actually physically do any of that work. So I would leverage the partners that I have on my team to do the work, and then they would invoice the.
Chad, I think what she may be referring to was when Colette brought an investor in. Chad was saying, you can charge the seller or the buyer for bringing the investor in. You can. If the seller just wants $40,000 and you have an investor, you can, charge a flat commission rate. I think maybe that's what you heard, because we don't really recommend, charging for other services that are outside the realm of real estate. Those are all extra value that you bring to kind of distinguish yourself from the other agents.
Okay, that's what I thought, and I thought I'd heard something different. That's why I wanted to clarify it.
Okay. All right. Yep. Thank you very much. We have 2 more. Oh, wow. I guess that's it. Okay. Not sure what happened there, guys. Hang on a second. We had 2 more in the queue, and somehow they disappeared. The 2 that were in the queue, our system kind of hiccuped. If you want to hit *6 and hit 1 again and hop back in there. There we go. Thank you. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. Okay, we have 2 more. We have 3 in the queue. And that's going to wind it up for the week, guys. We gotta cut it off here pretty quick, but we're going to go a little bit over, obviously. Next up is phone number ending in 2120. You're up next.
Hello, how you doing, guys? My name is Isaac. Can you hear me?
Can hear you great.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Yep.
How you doing, guys? So first time on the call. Actually, my partner Phil is here with me. We're on speakerphone and we're listening in. Kind of excited to talk to you guys. So I'll get right to the point. We had a situation where we had an appointment with a guy, and the guy is sick, and all he wants is to stay at home and die in his house. That's basically what he told us. And the problem is that it was his grandma's house, and she passed away years back, and nobody probated the actual will. and the home has actually a tax lien on it already. So we've tried to contact the tax lien holder, if they can assign the tax certificate to us, and they declined. Obviously, they don't do assignments. So I guess my question is, we're having a problem. The deed is still grandma's name, so we're kind of having a problem. We're kind of stuck how we should take it from here. We've tried reaching out to the executor of the estate, and it seems like he's not a functioning person or something. We really can't get a hold of him, so we're kind of stuck. So I was just wondering how you guys would take it, I guess.
What's your end game? Do you want to own the house?
Yeah, so we told this guy when we met him that we have no problem. We would let him stay in the house. The house has a ton of equity, obviously. It's free and clear. It just has the outstanding taxes and the tax certificate lien. So we told him we have no issue. You can stay here. I guess we'll figure it out with maybe he's going to give us some small rent or whatever. We'll figure that out and we'll sit with it till it goes. And that's his only wish. He just wants to stay in the home until he dies. He kept on telling this over and over.
Let me back up to grandmother's death. Was there a will?
There was a will. He's actually on the will, but there's a couple of cousins on the will, and one of the oldest cousin, I guess, he's the executor.
So probate was filed.
It was filed, but the deed was never switched over somehow.
Did the probate ever close, or is it still an open case?
I believe it was closed. I'm asking Phil. Yeah, it's closed. It was closed. So the probate was closed, but the will somehow was never transferred. The deed. So
somebody made a mistake. Does the will say what was supposed to be done with the home?
No, the will doesn't state specifically about the home. It just states who all the cousins and everybody that's on the will.
So you basically have an ownerless home that really has, or a home with no one on title, but you have three heirs?
Yeah, 3 years, yes.
Okay. So if you were to sign a purchase agreement, it would need to be with the executor or the prior executor, that other cousin. And what you could do, if they're willing to do that, you can sign the contract, and you could even go ahead and close and just write in a life estate for the occupant of the home right now. So he's protected legally. He has a life estate on the property, even though you own it, and the family can get their money. It seems unbelievable to me that they closed a probate with the largest asset having equity, and no one questioned that or said, well, what do we do with the house, including the probate attorney. That seems strange to me. So,
do you have the probate attorney's information to contact the attorney?
Yes, I believe it's on the, yes. I can get it.
Wouldn't that be a good place to start? Sort it out.
Yeah, that would be my first phone call. So I would call and say, listen, we spoke to Mr. Occupant. He wants to stay in the home. We're interested in owning it. We're also interested in giving him a life estate. He can live there, rent free or for X amount on a life estate. Can you write the purchase agreement, or can you get the cousin to come in so we can sit down and write this? Like, what do you recommend? First, I've never heard of this. I have done, what I call inheritance deals, which is the probate closes, the real estate deed transfers, and then you can basically look at $0 transfers and find those inherited properties. That's typically how it goes. It sounds like here someone just didn't realize that they just kind of left the house out of it, so it needs to be retroactively probated. Maybe you have to reopen probate just for that asset. I'm not sure. But that's why I would call the attorney first, and hopefully he has contact with the cousins and can have a conversation with them. And he can open that with, hey, guys, we screwed up, but I've got some money for you if you come in and sign these papers. And that hopefully will motivate them to work with you.
And we have 3 more people in the queue. If you need help with this before the next call, just send a ticket to support, and one of us will reach back out and try to coach you through it. It's kind of an unusual deal.
Okay, thank you guys.
All right,
Appreciate it.
you're very welcome. Guys, we're going to limit it. Just send an email to support@alltheleads.com.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you,
All
guys.
right, you're very welcome. We're going to cut it off at the last three. Try to wrap this up in the next 5 or 10 minutes. Next up is phone number ending in 8103. You're up next.
Hi, this is Laura. I'm from Central Florida, and my question is about reverse mortgage. You mentioned it previously, and I have a probate listing, and I have discovered that there is a reverse mortgage on it. And I was just wondering if you could give me a couple of highlights of what I should watch out for, anything peculiar about that?
Sure.
The biggest thing is the language in the note will determine this. Usually you have 6 months once the mortgagee vacates the home, whether that's for death or other reasons. If the home is vacant, typically you have 6 months to get the home on the market or get it sold. If you don't do it in that 6 month period, then they can move to recover the asset. So the first question I would have is like what was the date that the home was vacated? The next question is what is the payoff amount?
Yep.
So you need to determine if there's equity there. You currently have the home listed?
I do have it listed, and we met that date. It was May the 2nd was the date that the reverse mortgage company gave to the personal representative, and we listed it and provided a listing agreement to the reverse mortgage company to show them that it's actively being listed and marketed.
Okay. And what's the days on market in that neighborhood?
Oh, what's typical for them to sell?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any. I'm looking at the MLS right here. I don't see. It depends on.
Let me ask you a different way. How many showings have you had in the last 19 days?
Well, okay. Let me get more into it. There's squatters in there, and the squatters are being removed, so we can't actively show it. So I'm marketing it to my cash guys because the house is in crappy shape. So my cash guys are interested, and I just want to see on the reverse mortgages there's something.
I will tell you, Laura. I was going to say with our experience with short sales, which is very similar. If you keep in touch with the lender, they're not going to foreclose. They don't want the property back. So I don't think you have as much of a fire sale as you think. You should have time to, go ahead.
We listed it on May 2nd, so it's less than a month on the market.
Right.
And as soon as she gets the squatters out, I can get a contract on it as soon as she gets the squatters out, which is
sure.
in the process.
So here's your game plan. I mean, your challenge is, it sounds like the home is priced right. It's not selling because nobody can get access to it. The risk there is if it takes you a long time to get access, the lender does have the right to foreclose. It's not likely, but they may. So if I were you, just to be proactive, have a conversation with the probate attorney, brief them on what's going on. This gives you a great opportunity to build a relationship with that particular probate attorney and show them that you're a different level of professional. And so say, listen, this is what's happening. This is what I'm afraid is going to happen. Can we be prepared to file an injunction in the case they move to a sale? And it's not likely to happen, but as long as that attorney knows that there's a possibility and you know that you're in a position where you can quickly file an injunction, you can actually stop the sale to protect the equity for the estate. That's going to impress the hell out of that attorney, and you're probably going to get a bunch of referrals from that relationship going forward. But it's a great way for you to hedge the risk for your client, but also to build a long-term relationship with that attorney.
Okay. Let me ask, as far as terminology, here in Florida, we say stay of foreclosure. Is it the same thing you're talking about for injunction?
I think so, yeah.
Basically, same thing. Basically, same, yes.
Stay of the foreclosure sales, it would be the same as injunction to the foreclosure sale to stop it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I've got
Correct.
that with another property I've got under contract as well. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. We have two. Does that help?
Thanks. Excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Last two in the queue. Next up is 8682. You're up next.
Hi, it's Jeffrey Kutcher. How are you?
Hey, great, Jeff. How about you?
Okay, good. Hey, really quick. I know you guys are time limited.
That's okay.
We're going to add one thing.
Fine.
I was to add one thing to the first gentleman that called with regard to the vendors. I had a woman yesterday, although she was living in the house that the husband passed away, so obviously it's not for sale. However, she asked me to help her get people for screening, so I just made a bunch of calls and found 2 really nice people, and I called her back and gave her the numbers. So I just, and I didn't even know anybody in Florida. There's a lot of screening that needs to be required. But my question, and so that was, so I just did that just to help her, just to do it. The other thing I wanted to ask was, I have some older leads that I had last year when I started with you guys, and of course, as you know, I stopped for a while and came back. Calling those old leads, how do you begin the conversation if you haven't sent out a letter, if you will? How would you do that? What courses, which course of action would you take? What would you recommend?
Sure. Chad, do you have the script, or I can take a shot at it? Go ahead. I've actually done it, Jeff. I'll take a shot at it. I don't know if Chad is.
Sorry, I was on mute. I was.
Okay.
On mute.
Go ahead, sir. You go ahead. I figured that was what's going on.
No, I mean, what I would do, I would say, listen, we tried to reach out a year or so ago, and we've been extremely busy helping so many families, but we do try to take time periodically and come back and make sure we help as many people as we could. So I was just following up to see, have you guys closed the probate? Did everything go smoothly, or is there anything that you could use some help with? And, just show them that you're following up, with people from a long time ago because you care to reach out and help. And you'll find, I'll say this, I think every campaign we've ever done through our ISA center for people in your situation, we have gotten results. One in particular, the agent listed almost $4 million worth of real estate from a single call campaign. And the data was 14 months old. So there are certainly some people in there that have moved at a slower pace that will, and usually when they hear from you, they respond stronger and immediately because they haven't heard from anybody in, a year. So there's no noise, there's no competition. It's just you and them having the conversation. And there are oftentimes come listings, as soon as you make contact, they're like, oh my gosh, we haven't done anything. We got to do that. Can you meet us now? So definitely make the calls, but I would just reconnect and say, I attempted to reach out a while back. We haven't spoken, but I have some time to catch up with families. And I just wanted to see if this is all closed out and you guys are good, or if there's anything that you could use some help with. And even if it is closed out, take that opportunity to create a referral for your estate planning attorneys, your financial services professionals. If they've closed and received the distribution, then offer to get them a free consultation with your your registered investment advisor, so they can look at their options for protecting that wealth and reinvesting. Say, listen, most of my clients, even if things go smoothly, it's a really uncomfortable process, and on average, probate costs the average estate 4 to 7%, 4 to 7, not 47. But 4 to 7% of the estate's value. Would it be okay if I have Mr. John Smith call you to talk about an estate plan for future generations in the family? It's just something we try to do for every family, even if we haven't helped them, with the real estate. So you might create some good referrals for your partners if you've got them on the phone. You're already putting the time in doing the work. Just remember, you can always create a referral for estate planning attorney, financial advisor, someone. And maybe certainly that'll come back to you in the long run.
Okay.
All right, perfect. I agree completely. And the fun thing about those is they're either going to say, oh, no, thanks, we did it, or the ones that maybe 25, 30% of them that haven't done anything, you're going to have zero competition. Nobody is still calling them that much later. So that's the good news. The ones you get are going to be ready to go. So great question. And we're going to finish up. Oh, you're very welcome, Jeff. Thank you. Last up, Colette is back. Colette, you had some closing comments, I guess. You had something else you wanted to add.
Yeah, just on the guy that had the family member with the life estate. Here in Texas, we do a monument of title, and I just wanted, if he's still on the call, when he calls the estate attorney, ask him if that's what the estate attorney did. it completely takes the home out of the probate process, and it transfers the title to the heirs so that they can sell it at any given time, but they can close out the other parts of the probate if there were, bank accounts, personal property, things like that. And I've done several of those now over the last couple of months where the estate attorney just bypassed it, so they didn't even have to worry about it, wrapped everything up with the probate side of it quickly, and just whenever they got the house cleaned out or the stepfather, moved out, or the living spouse moved out to, an assisted living facility, they would then be able to sell the house without having to worry about leaving probate open. So in our state, it's called a monument of title, MUNIMENT. And the estate attorney, you'll sound impressive when you ask them about it, but that may be a situation that they did, and you don't always see it when you pull the tax records. You actually have to go and get the title company to kind of pull it and see what's going on.
Excellent. That's great to know. Thank you. Colette, thank you so much for all your participation. Thank you to everyone that participated today. This was by far our longest call. I really appreciate almost everybody stayed to the end. I want to end this the same way I end every call. Thank you for being here. This call is about you, and we're always impressed how you guys are willing to participate and help each other, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. And I just want to challenge you. You took the time to be here. Take one thought, one idea, one story, one thing that inspired you from this call. Go out and put it into practice, and please come back next Thursday and share your results with the group. Thank you so much, guys. Make it a great week, and we will talk to you same time next Thursday. Take care.